And welcome to the Tuesday night live stream for studentloanjustice.org. My name is Alan Collins, founder of studentloanjustice.org. Ed couldn't make it tonight. He is previously disposed, and so I am just filling in for him. I figure we just do kind of a free-form live stream tonight. Free-form, which means I'm just going to talk out of the side of my neck for a few minutes. By all means, save me. If you have any questions or comments, throw them out, and I'm happy to respond to any and all comments, as long as they're not personal attacks against me. But maybe I'll even respond to those too, but don't do that. So, anyways, okay, so we are studentloanjustice.org. We're fighting for two things: the return of bankruptcy to student loans. That's literally the most important. But we're also fighting for student loan cancellation at this point, and we have been for the past over 2 years now. In August 2019, President Trump canceled a bunch of student loans for veterans by executive order, and I was asked by Vice News whether the president could do that for all student loans. And I looked at it carefully, looked at the law, consulted with experts, and indeed the president does have, and the Secretary of Education does have the authority to cancel federally owned student loans by executive order. And this is about somewhere around 87% of all student debt are federal student loans owned directly by the federal government. So we started a petition as the pandemic started back in March 2020, calling for exactly that, the presidential and secretarial cancellation of all federally owned student loans by executive order. The cool thing about canceling loans by executive order is that the president, secretary, they do not need congressional approval. They do not need congressional appropriation. So it's a great idea. There is no better way to stimulate the economy. Our petition very quickly grew. We had, I think, 250,000 signatures by like June or July. And by September, like just about a year ago now, a little over a year ago now, Senators Elizabeth Warren and Chuck Schumer embraced the concept and actually did a Senate resolution calling on then President Trump to cancel student loans by executive order. Now, that's great. We're thrilled that Senator Schumer and Warren picked up the ball and ran with it and made student loan cancellation by executive order a top of the news item. But we're also quite wary at the same time, guys. What Senator Warren was calling for was an up to $50,000 loan cancellation. And I'm sorry, guys, but we have been doing this for a long time. And up to $50,000 could mean anything. It's ambiguous. It's like salesman talk. Like, you could win up to this much, but you only win like $1, right? So up to $50,000 could mean anything. And if the Department of Education has its way, and make no mistake, the Department of Education has no desire and no intentions of canceling any student loans, it will mean nearly nothing or even nothing for the vast majority of borrowers out there. This lending system is done, folks. It's toast. I think everybody out there who's been in their own little world, their own little hidey hole, stressing out over their student loans, you need to go outside, shake your head, take a couple steps back, and look at the forest for not just your own little tree. This lending system is toast. Even before the pandemic, only about half of everyone was making payments at all. In other words, half of all borrowers were not even paying before the pandemic. Today, almost nobody is paying. It's like 8% of the people with federal student loans are paying now. If and when they ever turn this lending program back on, I would be stunned if even 20% of the people resumed paying. Maybe like 25 or 30 will start to repay, but I think after a couple of months they'll be like, you know what? I can't do this. I couldn't do this before the pandemic. Now I really can't do it because, I just can't. Inflation, everything. So guys, The default rate for subprime home mortgages was 20%, 1 in 5. We are looking at a default rate for federal student loans of something like, even before the pandemic, it was going to be something like 75%. So now the pandemic, everything, who knows? It's probably even higher than that. So, I mean, that's pretty much, I think, all that I really need to say to convince you or anyone that this lending system is done. It's a dead man walking. It's a zombie. It's toast. It's finished. Put a fork in it. At this very late date, we fought very moderately for the return of bankruptcy protections to student loans for many years. And make no mistake, we're still doing that. We have a great bill in the Senate right now, S-2598. There's actually more Republicans on that bill than Democrats, which is a very interesting thing for me to say. It's never happened before. But guys, I think it's too late for only bankruptcy. If only bankruptcy was returned tomorrow, I think 25 million people probably would wind up filing in the first year or two. Now, in an average year, less than 1 million people, 1 million, file for bankruptcy for any reason, for all kinds of loans in this country. So I don't think President Biden wants to be the guy that forces 20 plus million people into bankruptcy for the crime of going to college. If nothing else, this would overwhelm the bankruptcy courts to the point of seizure. I think at this late date in the death spiral of the system, honestly, the best thing to do is simply cancel all of the loans and start over again. Come up with a far better way to fund higher education in this country. So that's what we're fighting for. I mean, truly, guys, that truly is the best thing to happen here. Are a few people who don't need to get their loans canceled going to get something for free? Yeah, probably 15% of the borrowers, probably. What is that, like? 7 million people will probably get something that they didn't deserve, but 38 million people will finally be free of this unconstitutional, student loans are unconstitutional, viciously predatory, college enriching, catastrophically failed, indefensible lending scam. So think about that. We just threw trillions of dollars out into the economy, much of it in the form of loans that don't need to be repaid. All of those stimulus measures needed money to be drawn from the Treasury, needed money to be added to the national debt. Canceling all federally owned student loans will require not one thin dime from the Treasury. It will add not one nickel to the national debt. I mean, think about that. There is no better way, no cheaper way, no easier way to stimulate the economy than by getting rid of this failed, absolutely wrecked, and nationally threatening, college enriching, hyperinflationary, viciously predatory lending train wreck. So we're fighting for two things. We're still fighting for bankruptcy. We're still fighting for total loan cancellation. But guys, we've been doing this for many years, 16 years now. And I can tell you that certainly with Biden as president, as the political dynamics are right now, as we speak, and they're changing quickly. So who knows what 3, 4, 5 months from now, it could be far different. But right now, the one thing that will cause meaningful, actual loan cancellation to happen is that first thing, bankruptcy. Only with the threat of bankruptcy back on our side can we expect any sort of meaningful loan cancellation. And there's a long history behind this. I'll just give you the short version. So back in 2007, we were traveling the country, and I got a phone call from one of the student loan advocates I probably shouldn't mention her name. No, I will. It was Christine Lindstrom from the Public Interest Research Group. And she did everything she could to dissuade me from fighting for the return of bankruptcy protections to student loans. She said, no, 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 just stop fighting for bankruptcy. Instead, help us fight for these wonderful loan cancellation programs that we're fighting for. There's something called the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program, where people who work for a nonprofit will get their loans canceled after 10 years. There's this income-based repayment program where 25 years you get your loans canceled. Well, we never stopped fighting for bankruptcy, by the way, but how did those two programs turn out? Public service loan forgiveness, 98.6% rejection rate, disqualification rate. Income-based repayment probably won't be much better. In 2015, we knew that 57% of the people in IBR had already been kicked out. And we still have like 5 years before the first IBR loans are due to be canceled. It's not going to happen, guys. These so-called loan cancellation programs are jokes. And in the absence of bankruptcy protections, they will continue to be jokes. There's a very good reason that the Founding Fathers called for uniform bankruptcy laws, ahead of the power to declare war, ahead of the power to raise an army, ahead of the power to create a judiciary, ahead of the power to build a navy, ahead of the power to coin currency. Very good reason. And this student loan violation of their wisdom proves their wisdom in spades. We've got to have the threat of bankruptcy back on our side. If we want the lending system, which at this point is pretty much the Department of Education plus a few little slimy contractors slithering around, like Navient and Nelnet and Great Lakes and others, FIA. Got to have the threat of bankruptcy back on our side. You know, we might see Joe Biden do, okay, I'm going to cancel up to $50,000 in student loans, or I'm going to cancel up to $10,000 in student loans. And by the time the Department of Education gets done with it, it will be almost nothing for almost everyone. It will be nonsense. That is not what is needed. This lending system, I'll say it for the third time, is failed. It's toast. There is no saving it. There should be no saving it. And maybe they didn't get the memo in Washington, D.C. yet. But if and when they turn this lending program back on, almost nobody's going to pay. And I already said that as well. So yeah, guys, we have a bill, S-2598, in the Senate right now. We've got to fight extremely hard for it. Dick Durbin is the co-sponsor. John Cornyn, Republican in Texas, is the prime co-sponsor. Josh Hawley, a senator from Missouri, is also sponsoring the bill. We need more Republican senators on this bill, guys. So that's kind of where we're at right now, guys. They said they're going to overhaul the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program. Don't believe it until you see it. Words, talk is very cheap from the Department of Education. We've got to keep fighting. We've got to keep fighting to grow our petition. You know, right now we have over 1 million people on that petition. We should have 20 or 30 million people on it. The more people we can get on that petition, the stronger we will be. So growing the petition, fighting for S-2598, those are the two things off the top of my head that I can think of that are most important. One thing I will say, one very concrete thing, one thing that we could do to cause loan cancellation, kind of do an end around all this stuff, even including around bankruptcy, if we can get even a couple of Republican governors from states like Georgia, Texas, Florida, North Carolina, South Carolina, Tennessee, Missouri, Ohio, New Hampshire, South Dakota, and a few others, Maryland, Virginia, although Virginia's got a Democratic governor. If we can get a few Republican governors like Ron DeSantis or Brian Kemp or, you name them, H.R. McMaster, etc. If we can get a few Republican governors to stand up and say, Mr. President, enough. I will not allow my state to be conquered and enslaved by this federal debt. Cancel these loans. If we can get a couple of governors to do that, I think it would cause a groundswell in this country. I think the loans would very shortly thereafter literally be canceled. Certainly, everybody would stop paying. And, whether it gets canceled in Washington, D.C. first, or whether the people, by our own, let's say, refusal to pay, I like to call it Slexit, like student loan exit. Which one happens first, I don't know. It may very well be that people need to put their foot down and stop paying first. But if we can get a few Republican governors on our side, that will happen. We will get a good, clean, economically stimulating end to this federal student loan system. So keep that in mind, guys. If you live in any of the states that I mentioned, particularly Georgia, Florida, Texas, Ohio, Missouri, get on it. Think of this as your job. If you can even get us into a phone conference with the governor's staff, that would be great. As a constituent, you can do it. Just get on the phone. It doesn't take much effort, but it takes some effort. And remember, there's a lot riding on this. It's not like you can just send an email and say, hey, could you please meet with Student Loan Justice? They want to talk to you, and then forget about it. You got to put your back into it. You need to really commit to getting this accomplished. If we can meet with even a couple of governors, that's great. We've already met with like 3 governors, by the way. I'm not going to say which states, but suffice it to say, we are having very good conversations with a number of governors' offices right now. But we need more. We need to talk to the governor of Texas. We need to talk to Ron DeSantis in Florida. We need to talk to Governor Kay Ivey in Alabama. We need to talk to Governor Bill Lee in Tennessee. We would love to talk to any of those states that I mentioned. I'm not going to rattle off the list again. But if you live in any of those states, then get on it. There's a lot, right? You could be the one person that makes the perfect phone call, that arranges that perfect meeting, that writes that perfect email, that causes that very first governor to do what we need him to do, and that is side with us over the student loan swamp, side with his people over Washington, D.C. This is becoming a state sovereignty issue. I kid you not. Like, think about the state of Texas. The entire state budget, state of Texas, $119 billion. That's a lot of money. But the people of Texas owe $141 billion in student loan debt. And most of that is federal student loan debt. Think about that. They call themselves conservatives and they call themselves, constitutionalists in Texas. Well, this is the perfect opportunity for Governor Greg Abbott, to prove his mettle and to stand up for his people. And remember, probably 55% of student loan borrowers are either Republican or independent. So this is Greg Abbott's base. That's a lot of people. That's a lot of votes. So these governors should come our way. And I have to say, the preliminary talks that we've had so far have been very encouraging. And quite frankly, most of the governors, they don't even know that their states owe more in student loan debt than their entire state budgets. They just don't know that because these are primarily federal loans, and they just don't think about federal stuff. They think about the state budget a lot, but they don't think about federal student loans. So anyways, I hope I have given you enough tonight to work on. If you are ever wondering what you might be able to do to help, just go to our website and click on the daily updates and do, let's say, a month or a month and a half worth of our daily actions. They're very easy to do. They usually only take a few seconds. Like, it's usually something with Twitter. So it's very easy to do. You can say that you're pulling your weight because remember, these are your loans. This is your problem. We're not going to solve this without your help. And if you're sitting there waiting and watching and worrying, don't do that. We need you in the trenches with us, fighting. And don't think you're better than us either. You're not. You need to get your hands dirty. We're not going to solve this problem for you. Only together, when you help, is this problem going to go away. So don't forget that. And you can very easily do the past month and a half worth of daily actions, probably in about 15 or 20 minutes. It doesn't take that long at all. It's a little bit of effort, but it's time well spent. So get on it, guys. This group right here, believe it or not, might not look like it, but we are the tip of the spear. We are the eye of the hurricane. We are the spear. We are the hurricane in many ways. We've got a freaking huge muscle to flex. And when a significant percentage of our million-plus members, including on our petition, actually start helping, we'll get these loans gone in a fortnight. Seriously, we'll get them gone very quickly. It starts with you. Always has, always will. In the immortal words of fictitious character John Connor, you have no idea how important you are. So remember that. Last two things I will say. We are speaking at USC Film School on Thursday at 7 p.m. Western Time. Sign up for that talk. It's on Zoom. You can ask questions. Senator Chuck Schumer will be there, believe it or not. Sign up for that. I will paste a link to it below. Very last thing I will say is if you can donate, please do it. Just go to studentloanjustice.org. We can fight this battle on very little in donated support, but we can't do it on nothing. So if you appreciate all that we have gotten done, all that we are getting done right now, and all that we are poised to get done, hopefully in the very near future, then please help out. You can go to the website, studentloanjustice.org/donate. Okay, guys, I will leave it there. I will leave it there at that. If you have any questions after the fact, I will revisit this here periodically and jump into the conversation. So, all right, y'all. Good luck. God bless. And Godspeed, everybody.